Maybe a hoodie wasn't the best choice for late November. I mused as I trudged down the desolate dirt road. The rocks I kicked ahead of me danced in a haunting, erratic pattern, each one echoing a hollow clink against the frozen ground. Despite the wind having died an hour ago, I couldn't stop shivering. The midnight chill felt like icy fingers creeping under my skin, constricting my breath. This cold, though, seemed even more insidious, as if an invisible frost was wrapping around my conscience, freezing my thoughts with a relentless grip. The road stretched out, empty and silent, flanked by darkened, lifeless houses. Not a single car passed by. My shadow suddenly stretched out in front of me, illuminated by the unexpected approach of headlights. I spun around, hopeful, and thrust my thumb out, pleading for a ride. The car rolled to a slow stop, and the driver, a middle-aged man with a heavy scent of cologne, peered at me with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Son, you must be freezing. Where are you headed?" he asked, his voice gruff yet tinged with genuine worry. I hesitated, then finally said, "The city. Bay City?" "That's quite a drive from here, especially at this hour," he noted, pondering my words as if they carried a hidden weight. "Well, hop in. Let's get you warmed up and on your way." I didn't argue. I circled the car and collapsed into the passenger seat, the heat blasting from the vents immediately engulfing me. Yet, the chill that gripped me wasn't one that could be thawed by mere warmth. It was rooted deep within, like ice in my veins, and it would take agonizing time to melt away. As we drove, the old man tried to make conversation. "You live in the city then. What brings you all the way out here?" "Just visiting friends," I mumbled, my eyes fixed on the dashboard. "Oh yes, fun with friends." "And where are these friends now?" he pressed, his tone a bit too inquisitive for my liking. I shot him a sharp look, silently willing him to mind his own business. He seemed to get the message. "My name's Alan, by the way. You can call me Al. Only my wife calls me Alan, and that's when she's mad," he chuckled, the sound whimsical yet grounded in a lifetime of experience. Still shivering, I finally introduced myself. "I'm Ben, thanks for the ride." "Not a problem, Ben. I love the city. My wife is always nagging me to move there, but I tell her I love the trees out here too much. She says, 'Al, there are trees in the city, but not like this.'" He gestured to the shadowy landscape beyond the windshield, his voice carrying a sense of reverence. I tried to soak up as much heat as possible, but it only seemed to deepen the cold gnawing at my core. My head slumped against the window, and I drifted off into a restless sleep. My dreams replayed the events of that night with unnerving clarity. The biting cold, the eerie silence, and the isolation all were as vivid as reality. I had scoped out his house for weeks. It stood as a large, abandoned farmhouse, surrounded by dense forest and a neglected horse enclosure. I never saw any signs of life there, no cars, no lights. I had ventured up the driveway a few times, peering through the grimy windows to confirm its emptiness. But that night, the emptiness had felt different. It wasn't just the absence of people, it was a void, a hollow space that seemed to consume all warmth and hope, leaving behind only the bitter chill of guilt and fear. I had concluded that the old farmer had died long ago, leaving his 3 acres to decay at a slower, more painful pace. So why not speed things up? I walked through the forest, the cold November air biting at my skin for what felt like hours. When I finally emerged into the backyard of the farmhouse, the scent of burning wood already filled my nostrils, and the crackling sounds reached my ears. Fire had always fascinated me, ever since childhood. My mother's obligatory, "Don't play with matches," had never quite reached me, or maybe it never had the chance to. Years spent in foster care did little to curb my fiery escapades. If anything, they only fueled my fascination. The brief, intense satisfaction of flames was fleeting, always leaving me yearning for more. Tonight, I planned something far grander. I had never burned anything larger than an old shed before, and even that had barely made the local newspaper. This would be my magnum opus. I approached the house, kneeling by the back corner with a bottle of gasoline and a lighter in hand. The simplicity of it all brought a twisted smile to my face. Without wasting time, I poured the gasoline over the weathered siding and struck the lighter. The flames were hesitant at first, as if unsure of their surroundings. But once they found their footing, they surged upward, orange and red tendrils climbing the old house like a child scrambling up an oak tree. The fire spread, wrapping the worn structure in a deadly embrace. In a matter of minutes, the farmhouse that had stood for 100 years was rapidly facing its end. A sickening sense of accomplishment crept up within me, a disgusting pride I reveled in. The fire roared, consuming shingles, windows, and siding, melting it all into hot, sticky puddles by the foundation. This was my best work yet. As the arsonist, I was reaching my peak. But then, in an instant, my triumph plummeted. A light flicked on in a second-story window. I saw the silhouette of a woman scrambling down the hall to the adjacent room. I watched in horror as the next light went on, revealing the shadow of a child, a young girl. A chill, colder than any I had felt before, set in. Panic surged through me as I realized what I had done. I scrambled to think of a solution, but it was too late. The house was engulfed. Tears stung my eyes as I turned and sprinted back towards the forest. A few yards inside the tree line, I glanced back to see headlights pulling into the driveway. I raced away, never looking back. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I jolted awake, nervously glancing around to re-establish my surroundings. The car had come to a stop at a rural gas station. I got out to pump gas and went inside, probably in search of coffee or hot cocoa, something to warm us up. The gas station was nearly deserted, the only sounds being faint Christmas, music drifting from the speakers, and the hum of the hot cocoa machine. I was in front of the machine when Al came inside. "Oh, hey Al," the man behind the counter said. "Hi Marty, how you been?" Al replied. "I'm doing okay. Hey, I saw a couple of fire trucks headed out your way earlier. Is everything all right?" My heart sank. All I could think about was that silhouette in the window. "I must have missed them," Al said. "Well, that's good. I'm glad your farm is still intact." Al's words barely registered. The image of the woman and child in the burning house haunted me, a constant reminder of the irreversible damage I had caused. I immediately froze. It couldn't have been the same farm, right? I set down my cocoa and hurried out of the store, needing to be alone. I couldn't bear to encounter any more reminders of that night's events. After I made it a few yards from the door, I heard the bell crash as it burst open again. "Ben, where are you going?" Al shouted. "Thank you, Al. I can walk from here," I replied, quickening my pace. "Walk?" Al yelled. I was just about to pass Al's car when I felt a cold hand on the side of my head. Before I could react, my head was slammed into the car twice. Dazed, I felt myself being thrown into the back seat as my consciousness faded. A familiar acrid smell coupled with severe pain in the right side of my head jolted me awake. As I regained consciousness, still freezing cold, the hazy environment slowly revealed itself. I was in the back seat of a Buick. I could hear someone moving outside the car, dumping some sort of liquid. I tried to move to see out of the window, but my attempts were futile. My arms and legs were strapped together and tied to the car itself. Panic slowly crept in as I finally recognized the smell: gasoline. Before I could think to ask, a voice spoke. "Hey Ben, you doing all right in there?" Al asked almost sincerely. I stared back at him through the rolled down window, breathing heavily. "Make yourself comfortable. You're still cold, aren't you?" "I'll warm you up," Al said with a smile. I couldn't stop shaking. Was he serious? He wasn't really going to. I seemed to be getting colder. I could make out one word he said as he leaned in close. "You want to know what it was, Ben?" I stared back at him, terrified and pissed off. It wasn't anything profound, nothing deep and meaningful. No, I didn't get the pleasure of having an audible final moment. It was help. Beneath the sound of crackling and popping windows, I heard my wife and daughter crying for help, for their father and husband, as I stood in the driveway. All's demeanor shifted from playfully creepy to terrifyingly serious in an instant. After I saw you dodging trees, running away from your grand masterpiece, the roof collapsed in on them, and I didn't hear much after that, Ben. I stared back, tears cascading down my cheeks. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You see, Ben, you took everything from me tonight. Everything that I've ever loved, everything I've ever known, you took that from me. Al continued, choking back a wave of tears. I'm sorry, I whispered. Yeah, I know you are, Ben. But you understand now I have to take everything from you, from your miserable, pathetic life. Okay, get comfortable. I burst into tears as I heard Al strike a match, the gasoline smell still permeating my nostrils. There was nothing I could say to stop this, but the terror still manifested itself in pleas for help. It was ironic, I thought, as the gasoline ignited. Hungry flames engulfed the car, a striking heat starting to creep over my skin. I could smell the thick, melting rubber, the paint peeling, and the interior catching fire. The eager blaze wrapped its warm arms around the old Buick. The heat rose rapidly, showing no sign of letting up. I looked down through tears to see my sneakers ignite, watching as the orange fingers danced and licked their way up my pant legs, the fabric searing to my skin. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, I muttered. The flames leapt under my hoodie, eagerly climbing to my head, singeing my hair and drying my eyes quickly. My vision turned into 1,000 shades of dancing orange and red as the searing pain overtook every sense. All I could feel was the fire from every angle, and in that moment, I could only think of one thing. I felt warm.